People often say that only children can learn a language, that past a certain age, it's too late. That if you're not a child, your brain is done, you'll never sound native, never think fluently, never get it. But what if that's not true? What if the real difference between children and adults isn't just biology or time, but how we approach learning itself? There are pros and cons of learning languages as a child and as an adult, but I find it very interesting that we completely disregard the fact that it's really, really, really possible. Babies have their benefits, adults have their benefits. I would highly recommend you watch Steve Kaufman's video comparing the two, and I'll put a table that he made comparing the different capabilities of languages in adults. And you can see that we as adults have a lot of advantages. There are two particular ones that babies do have, but that doesn't mean that that's impossible to learn a language as an adult. That's just not true. I think it's just how we approach it. So why, if we have so many benefits compared to children, do we give up? Why is language learning just for kids? Because it's not. They just have a massive advantage, which isn't even on the list I mentioned. Their advantage is that they're fearless, they're curious, they're childlike in the best way possible. They love puzzles, they love solving them. They're perfectly fine watching cartoons or films or anything for that matter and not understanding any of it. They're just entertained, and that's what they care about. And I think as adults we lost that ability. I think one of my best language learning stories is about how when we were in Georgia, the country, I'm a quarter Georgian Armenian, though I really don't look the part, and we were visiting our relatives in Tbilisi, in Georgia. And we were stuck in an airport while the adults were figuring out transportation. And my brother and I wandered around the airport looking at Georgian scripts. We were given two letters, I think it was A and E, when we first came into the airport, and the airport had a lot of English brands which were also transcribed into Georgian scripts, just under or above, and we could piece together what letters, what sounds represented what. It wasn't one-to-one. There are 3 Georgian alphabets and multiple sounds, as we found out, but in an hour or so we could more or less read everything. The only thing I remember from that trip is how we were trying to pronounce ice cream, which is something along the lines of nakini. But in the end, this helped a lot when we were trying to read the names of people in the cemetery of Armenian writers and public figures, and we were actually helping out the other tourists because none of them could read Georgian. No lessons, no grammar, just curiosity. That's how learning should feel. Of course, babies do have the main advantage is that language learning or just learning in general is their main job. That is all they have to do. They don't have responsibilities, they don't have stuff to think about. That doesn't mean that we as adults cannot learn from them too. They're interesting creatures. In fact, it's impressive how important language learning is for children. Not just their native language, but slang, secret languages. Pig Latin is a secret language. They can also create their own secret sign languages. They seem to love creating language. I had one when I was a kid, and I invented it with my closest friend, who is now a linguist herself, and another friend of ours who was responsible for the historic aspect of our made-up country. But she created the alphabet and I created the pronunciation. And it was ridiculous, but it was so creative, and adults rarely do that anymore. All adults except for maybe linguists. Linguists are just grown-up kids who never stop playing with words, and they love language. They like creating language. They like analyzing language. They like learning language. That's what they live by. This is the group that specializes in languages, and yet you will never hear them correct your grammar or your pronunciation. They will instead get out their notes, ask you to repeat something saying, that's an interesting way to put it. Are you from this region maybe? Do you speak any other languages? Do your friends say similar things? They're a curious bunch, not a criticizing bunch. They don't dictate language, they explore it. I recently stumbled across a language created by Canadian linguist Sonia Lang. It's called Tokipona. I'm sure some of you have heard of it as well. And I heard 2 guys talking about it when playing foosball, and I decided to look into it, and throughout the language you can sense that it was made by a linguist. There's this linguistic soul. There's this understanding of language which only a linguist seems to have. There are 120 words max, that's the entire vocabulary, and everything is transmitted through context. It uses all the simplest parts of all the languages around the world and has a beautiful linguistic message. There are no wrongs as long as your conversational partner understands you. You can learn it in a very few days if you want. I highly recommend Jan Misli's channel on 12 Days of Potokipona. I'll link it down below. That language really reminds me of what learning should feel like. Simple, playful, and human. Remember the chart that I mentioned before, this one? Notice how pronunciation is the most difficult part of this, so it seems. That's also what Steve Kaufman said. Though pronunciation is the most difficult, that does not mean that it's impossible. In fact, a lot of linguists have to be able to replicate any sound in any language, and they generally replicate that as adults because you don't become linguists as 3-year-olds. I have a video on how to learn sounds and pronunciation of any language on this planet and how linguists learn it, how I learned it myself. And I have a video about it, about the International Phonetic Alphabet, and check it out if you're interested. On a slightly other note, I really dislike the A1 to B2, C1, C2 language levels concept. Though they are useful, they place language learning in categories and achievements, which isn't something it should be. It prevents people from making mistakes, something that we all know is very, very important for language learning. Exams do that in the fastest and easiest of ways, and that doesn't mean that we should incorporate this. Language learning is about mistakes, about freedom, about flexibility, and I sometimes get asked, oh, so what's your level in all languages you speak? So your Russian is at what level? C1, C2? What about English? What about French? And I don't know what to say to that. I can communicate, that's all I know. It's kind of like asking what level your appreciation of art is. Is it B1, B2, A1? In fact, my Russian friend once asked me to help her online Russian exam, and I warned her that I don't actually know English grammar. And in the end, we got a 3, which is something around the lines of a C. But I can't say my English is bad. It's not that I grew up in America, I spoke it my entire life, but rules are not necessarily something you need in languages. Of course, they're useful to start out with, especially they're very different from your native language. But be aware that not all rules are necessary. Languages change, and with extreme speeds a lot of the time. So fast that most curriculums can't even keep up. They change and adapt, and exams aren't the best way to test one's language ability. I'm clearly a big prescriptivist hater and love rather to describe languages as most linguists do, as opposed to having certain structured rules that dictate what works and what doesn't. Those who've seen my channel before know that on the top part of my channel there's this image of 3 kids watching something. Those 3 kids are me, my brother, and sister when we were younger, and the 3 of us deciding which cartoon to watch. Just the sheer fascination with animation for kids is something to marvel at, and rarely do adults share the same fascination that kids have when they watch cartoons. And I think we're losing a lot in that sense, so watch more cartoons. I love cartoons. It's maybe the one thing I remember from my childhood. It's what I wrote my college application essays about, and it's what taught me all the languages that I know now, and I love them still so much, even though I supposedly grew out of that stage. So all our drives were filled with cartoons and films, and some of them I loved so much and were so hard to find that when we discovered them it was literally like finding a treasure on a treasure hunt, because there are just so many. There is one particular animation that I've rediscovered 3 times, each time thinking it was a mirage or some sort of fever dream, until I found it on Instagram recently. And boy, am I happy that I found it, because everybody thought I was crazy for remembering it in such a way. It's called Le Roi l'Oiseau, and since then I made a video comparing it to Miyazaki's last film, The Boy and the Heron, or Kimitachi wa dou ikuruka. And you can watch it right here. It's more of a commentary, but I think it's a fun movie, and I recommend you to explore it. I think people underestimate children, but children far exceed adults in learning languages. They're interesting creatures, picky in terms of everything under the sun, be it toys, food, anything. But there's something phenomenal about how non-picky they are in terms of understanding. They watch anything that intrigues them. If they find it captivating, they will watch. In fact, they're willing to watch the same thing over and over and over again. They love the sensory input without caring if they understand anything at all. They don't care about the grammar or vocabulary, they care about how it feels. That's what makes them such incredible learners. They treat confusion as entertainment and not as failure. Adults, on the other hand, get anxious the moment they don't understand something. We analyze, we overthink, we give up. But babies, they're fearless little scientists, curious, messy, and unashamed. They try everything, fail constantly, and keep going. In today's world, it seems that has changed, though. Not to be the old geezer, but I think current producers of animations or cartoons think that children are stupid. And children aren't stupid. You don't have to fully understand something in order to appreciate it. And I think they're the biggest appreciators of our time. I think children understand animation and cartoons better than any adult because they know how to appreciate it. And they don't analyze them, they cannot put their thoughts into words and impress others with this ability to be so articulate. I think people are often too critical of films, and it's almost impossible to find a 5-star rating on Letterboxd. People like to downgrade films, analyze them, which is good and all, but I think we all lack a bit of curiosity, a bit of appreciation for the lack of understanding. We should all learn to watch something without understanding it fully, much like children watch cartoons or anything for that matter. When I was around 4, my parents placed me in front of a TV screen or something along those lines when they were visiting their friends, and there was an anime series playing, and it was in Japanese with no subtitles, and not that would help me much. And I watched the entire thing without understanding a word of Japanese. And I loved it apparently, the whole way through. I'm not an exception. All children, I think, would love to watch something captivating. They don't care because they don't understand anything to begin with. There was one Korean cartoon which I watched and adored when I was a kid. It was one of my favorite cartoons, and I actually have a video about it right here. And I rewatched it recently, and I realized that I understood absolutely nothing. Nothing I understood when I watched it initially, but I loved it so much. I think we should all learn from our children's selves, our child selves. I have a friend who, nothing against her, it's just an interesting thought I had. We were talking about going to the Cinémathèque here in Switzerland and watching Wong Kar-wai's movie. And she didn't want to join me because I think it had both Mandarin and Cantonese, if I'm not wrong. And the subtitles were in German and French, which, though she could speak a little, it wasn't perfect and she would miss something if she were to go. And I kind of wish we would go to theaters more often without fully understanding everything. That's what rewatching is for. You watch and you don't understand anything, and then you watch again and again and you don't understand everything again because you never will. So why do we want to understand it all? The point isn't to understand, the point is to experience it. I was recently listening to an audiobook, just because I'm not a big fan of reading, kind of like Alice in Wonderland. I think that books without pictures aren't interesting. Club des Incorrigibles Optimistes by Jean-Michel Guénassière. The main character visits a cinema, which runs numerous wonderful movies for very cheap, but with a twist. They could be Brazilian films dubbed in Turkish with Arabic subtitles or something along those lines, but the main character mentions that it's interesting how little the visitors of the cinema actually care for the language. Because they watch the film not to understand everything, but to appreciate it, to understand something. And I think we've lost that a little. Even one of the most well-known animators of our time, if not the greatest of our time, Miyazaki believes this. He says that there's no need to understand everything, and that when he's asked what Totoro is, he doesn't know himself. And what a relief, because that means that we don't have to either. We don't need to know everything, and that's why I love his animation so much. And I know that for many it's hard to fall into a story and to suspend disbelief and believe everything in the plot, but I don't think that's a problem for most children. They see and they believe. But with time we lose this skill. It's no wonder that so many authors wrote about this, be it in Peter Pan's, where children lose their ability to fly when they get older, in The Little Prince, where adults lose their ability to see with their hearts, in the Chronicles of Narnia, where as the children get older, they can no longer enter Narnia. There are, of course, people like Tolkien that never lose this wonder. They're lovers of languages who love them so much that they decide to write entire books about them. And I think we should learn a bit from the specialists instead of thinking that we are the specialists of those mediums. My mother has a friend who creates documentary films. She was shortlisted for the Oscars, and she knows she knows what she's talking about. And so me and my closest friend, who is now a linguist, we were visiting the film director for Thanksgiving. At some point, the film director asked my linguist friend what her favorite movies are. And she replied with a bit of hesitation, well, I'm not into classic movies or the cult favorites, but I absolutely adore these. And she listed a few. My mother's friend nodded and said, yes, those are lovely movies. I don't think people need to worry about cult classics. Good movies are the movies that people watch and enjoy. So if you enjoy those, they must be good movies. And that greatly stuck with me. I still catch myself every once in a while because I shouldn't comment on people's preferences, and they shouldn't comment on mine. Good movies are the ones people watch, and good cartoons are the ones people watch. There's one phenomenal cartoon that I think everyone should watch, called The Triplets of Belleville, Les Triplettes de Belleville, because it proves you that you don't have to have a language to understand what is happening. It almost has no language at all, or rather a strange combination of French, English, and Portuguese. It follows an elderly woman whose grandson is competing in the Tour de France, and he is kidnapped. She and her dog Bruno find these three French and very eccentric former music hall singers, Les Triplettes de Belleville, the Triplets of Belleville, and they set out to rescue this son. It has almost no dialogue, blending French, English, Portuguese sounds into a surreal, rhythmic world. It's funny and melancholic and deeply, deeply human, and proof that you don't need language to understand emotion. I have a very strong theory that the main elderly woman is Portuguese, and she cannot communicate with her son because they're living in France, and then they move to this English-speaking world where the triplets live, and they're French. None of them speak to each other. Everything is done through gestures. Everything is appreciated and understood without a word spoken. And I think that's how languages are learned, not through understanding, but through sheer exposure. I think we have a lot to learn from this animation. I would highly recommend you watch it just because it's such a great animation, and one that I absolutely adored when I was younger, so please watch it. I think it's free on YouTube, so by all means. So I've studied tons of languages in classrooms and from cartoons, from friends, and even from random airport signs. But the way you learn language matters more than how early you start. That is what I wanted to suggest you do, to change the way you approach languages, to stay optimistic and not give up, to mess up everything you possibly can, because that is the way people learn. That is the way children learn, and I don't know why we've decided that we're above that. Children are curious. They watch, they listen, they imitate, and they don't have this fear of making mistakes. They focus on input and not perfection, and they watch things they don't understand because they still enjoy it, because they love it, they're captivated by it so much. And they repeat it endlessly. They watch the same cartoons tens or hundreds of times. And what I would recommend you do is to mimic this, to treat confusion as curiosity, to pick content you love, and if you don't understand 90% of it, focus on sounds, rhythms, feelings, and not grammar first and foremost. Try watching 5-minute clips of your target language without subtitles, with sounds, and just let your brain play. Go to cinemas in that language. Watch movies with subtitles. Find ways to let your brain navigate the chaos and spark its curiosity. So I think there are these adult learning traps, so to speak, and there are ways to reverse them. Adults overanalyze. They want rules before exposure. They fear mistakes and self-censor. They obsess with language levels, and they set unrealistic goals with native levels and functional fluency and other BS like that. And I have an entire video about what I would recommend people do to start learning a language, specifically for you procrastinators out there. And so what I would urge you to do is to have input before theory, or with minimal theory, to listen, to read, to analyze later, to make mistakes, because mistakes are data and not failures. And nativeness is not one thing, even natives vary wildly. So stop chasing that C2 native level and aim instead for the ability to connect, to make people laugh, to ask for directions or tell a story. That in itself is fluency. I think we have a ton to learn from children and their learning abilities. Kids experiment constantly, and adults can do that too. Kids don't care if they're understanding everything. They enjoy the feeling of discovery, and we can recreate that through watching cartoons or movies in the target language, reading comics or memes, using hobbies as language input, video games, food, makeup, travel, anything. Like the sheer amount of data in a lot of languages that we have access to is insane. And we're just so focused on understanding it fully that we lose so many opportunities. So don't study your language, live in it. Change your phone settings, comment online, make mistakes publicly. As strange as that may sound and as difficult it might be to come to terms with criticism for others, disregard those critics. They don't know what they're talking about, and as I mentioned before, even the specialists of language, or especially the specialists of language, don't care about mistakes. So make as many as you need. Make as many as you want. That's how you learn. So that's how you learn, not through rules, but through discovery, through puzzles, through curiosity, and not through understanding. Let curiosity drive your learning ability, and not rules and structures. I encourage you to relax, to immerse yourselves in language, and learn like children, without subtitles, without excessive structures, because you don't have to understand everything to enjoy it. And ironically, in fact, the more you free yourself of these restrictions, the more you learn. So it's a myth that kids are better at learning. The truth is that adults just learn differently, or unfortunately, our world has decided that we learn differently. I think the way to fix that is to change how you learn, to learn from the children and be curious, stay fearless and playful, make mistakes everywhere you go. Because language learning isn't a race to mastery, it's a relationship with curiosity that I think a lot of us have lost. But that doesn't mean we can't rediscover it, and that's my message to you. Because children learn languages better because they never forget how to wonder, but adults can learn that too if you remember what it's like to be curious again. So I realized quite late that I completely forgot to record the outro for this video, so I need to do this quickly because then we need to catch 4 trains to Certaldo. But thank you for watching the video. I know it's been very long and kind of monologue-y and not the usual kind of video that I would usually make. But thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you like something similar concerning cartoons, linguistics, languages, animation, then please subscribe. That would I would very appreciate it, because I'm still a very small channel, and if you have any recommendations on what else I should make, please comment below, because that's kind of how I get my inspiration, or how I know what things work and what things don't. And yeah, I'm gonna make another video about French cartoons in some time, because I got 2 comments concerning that, and I also am thinking of starting pronunciation consultations. If that's something you're interested in, please also comment down below so I know if that's something I should do. Last thing, I also want to generate a list of all the animations that I know and share it with you, so that maybe you could also use it for future language learning in all those languages. So yeah, let me know what you think, what you like, what you don't like, what you would be interested in, what you won't be interested in. so that I can cater to that, because my videos are made for you guys, and I want to cater to that. I have a few videos on specific cartoons that I would recommend watching if you're learning Russian or Korean. I also have a few videos talking about language learning in general, and my latest one is about how procrastinators like me can learn languages, and so I would recommend you check those out. I also have a video about pronunciation and how you can learn how to pronounce any sound on this planet, so I would recommend you check those out. And thank you so much for watching, and I have to run.